Greetings everyone, it's a beautiful spring morning. I just woke up to the sound of rain and thunder. Came out just in time for the rain to stop. But the soil's really nice and moist, and it's a cool morning, so it's the perfect time to plant. So here I have some tools. I have this long ruler here. I have a measuring tape already rolled out. I have my seeds. I have my measurements written out for the planting depth, the spacing between plants, and the spacing between rows. I have some little chopstick things for marking out rows, and then I have my garden map that I made yesterday. So I will orient the map to the garden just so that you can see. I've rolled out my tape right here, and I already have it marked where I want to start each row. So using these measurements, I'm going to place these and mark. So I have a 1/2 foot for beets, 1.2 foot for radishes, and this is just to make sure that the plants have enough space to grow to full maturity. My kale at 3.5 feet. My spinach at 4.5 and 5.25. Then I have my arugula just about 6 feet. And I'm going to take my roll to the other side and repeat the same process. So I have my information here with the depth. A general rule of thumb for planting seeds is you plant it 2 times as deep as the seed is wide. But it'll tell you on the packet how deep to put it. For example, beets are 1 inch, cilantro is 1/4 inch, and a good way to measure that is to figure out the length of your finger. So I have my ruler here, and I'll put my finger up to the ruler and see. So I know that 1 inch is right up to that line. And I can feel it too. If I put my finger on, I can feel where the ruler goes to. Then 1/2 inch is just past my fingernail, and 1/4 inch is about halfway through my fingernail. So when I'm making the holes for my seeds, I can go, for beets, I'll go about that deep. For radishes, which are 1/2 inch, I'll go just past my fingernail. And for arugula, which is only 1/4 inch, I'll just go really shallow, just halfway through my fingernail. With a lot of plants like the beets, you can plant them pretty thickly at first, and then you thin them to 4 inches apart. So I'm going to go through and make my holes, and I'll make them pretty close. This is maybe 1 every 2 inches. I might even be able to go a little closer, but we'll see. It's better to seed them a little closer, that way you can get a good germination rate, and whatever doesn't germinate, it's okay. And if it over germinates, then you just weed out what you don't need later. I'm actually going back through with my ruler, and I'm making my spacing a little closer. So as you can see, I'm using this, and I'm going to make holes. I'm making holes every 2 inches. That way I can thin to every 4 inches. Here's my holes. So I'm going to come through with my seeds and plant. And it's important to try to not get any dirt or moisture in these seed packets, because these seeds are packed with life, and any fleck of moisture or nutrition that gets in will cause these seeds to germinate. So I'm going to just pour out a little bit, and maybe pour out more if I need later. And I'll just take my seed and put it in my hole. And I'll go through and put just one. Sometimes you could put maybe 2 or 3 in the hole, depending. If I have extra seeds, I probably will, or I'll save them for later in the season. And look at these beet seeds. These are gorgeous. Huge. So now that I've put seeds in every hole, I'm going to come through and just lightly brush some soil over to cover it up. You don't want to press them in, but just lightly cover the hole. Just move some excess dirt. And voila. So next I'm going to go through and seed the rest of my rows in the same fashion, just adjusting the depth at which I plant according to the type of plant. And it's highly suggested not to walk on your soil because that can lead to compaction, but I have some limitations here just because I'm working with one big bed. I'm going to do my best not to, and I'll reach until I can't reach that far, like those plants. So luckily there is some space between rows where I feel comfortable walking, and I'm not going to hurt the growth of my plants. And maybe I'll walk along this one last wide row to plant at the back. So the radishes have to be planted really thickly but shallowly. So how I'm going to actually do that is use the hoe and just scrape a little bit of dirt back along the entire row. That way I don't need to make individual holes, but I can just plant along this row and push the soil back over after I put the seeds down. And it really shouldn't be deep. These only need to go about a ½ inch under. Here's my radish seeds. Aren't they beautiful? So I put the ruler down there just to help me measure, and it said plant 2 seeds for every inch, so pretty thick. And why I plant thickly is because I'll thin it later. And with radish seeds, you want to keep sowing them every 10 days until the weather gets quite warm, and they'll keep growing. And then you can do that again in the fall. Welcome back. My phone charged, so I couldn't capture me planting the rest of the seeds. But as you can see, I've been walking along this line here, and it's pretty compact, but nothing is growing right here. So I changed things a little bit. I put my kale here, I put my spinach here, and then the next row I put the arugula. I only had 1 row of spinach because I ran out of seeds. And I plan to put cilantro where I'm standing, but I figured out that, I need this space to walk. If I did one thing differently next time I make my garden plan, is I would have a space to walk right directly in the center of the bed. It was pretty hard to reach the farthest rows. And also, if I had created this garden from scratch, I wouldn't have made a bed this big, just so I don't have to walk on the soil. So now that I have the seeds in the ground, my last step is going to be just watering them down a little bit more. So I've just discovered that this doesn't work. So I'm going to, in order to reduce the intensity of my stream, I'm just going to put my thumb and kind of make a rainfall effect. It's more like a mist. And that's good for the seeds, because you don't want to put too hard of a flow on them. So I will just water down the bed for a good while. It's good to make the soil nice and wet after you plant, just to give your seeds that first initial chance at life. So a couple things I want to point out there. I put my thumb over the hose like that to constrict the flow and make it more of a like a mist. And I also pointed the hose up. If you point the hose down when you're watering, you're going to press the seeds in too deep. And this also provides more of a rainfall effect because it creates an arc of the water and it falls more like the rain. So the soil is really nice and wet, and next, hopefully it'll keep raining. It looks like it will. But in the next few days, if there's not much rain, I'll come back with the hose and do the same thing, water it down pretty deeply. So, yeah. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope it helps you put your seeds in the ground.